Barrett unfortunately had a conflict with his professional career tonight, and he had to be in St. Louis to do some legal work. And he sent his wife Sarah and brother Christopher to represent him here with us tonight. And I told him it was fair enough that if I did the Christmas program as president-elect, he ought to be able to do the Christmas program next year as past president. We're very fortunate tonight to have our district training chair for 6150 with us, and it's Beverly Parker. I've known Beverly for a number of years because of her role in healthcare. She has a Bachelor of Science in Nursing from ASU and a Master in Community Health from the University of Southern Mississippi. She's been in healthcare for approximately 30 years. She's now retired, but in healthcare she was in various roles in management and clinical education, community outreach, and geriatrics. And I think one of the beauties of Rotary is that there's so many opportunities for service, and Beverly has played that out through her membership in the Jonesboro Club in a way that I think it's important for us to hear about, and she's going to tell us about some of the service opportunities that she's had and what Rotary really means to her and to the community. Beverly?
Try it again. That's good.
All right. Well, I'll use it. So, first of all, just let me thank you. That feels a little loud. Thank you for hosting me tonight. It's a pleasure to be here. I have to say, I've never been the entertainment at a Christmas party before. So we're going to try this one time. So repeat after me. Ho, ho, ho. Ho. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
That's all I got. So, I am going to be speaking, and I feel so down here, and you're not getting to eat. So, my assistant, Dana, here, is going to help me out, and his food will be cold. I'm sorry. But anyway, I'll go back one. So, my program tonight is about my trip to Africa. And I will be telling you a little bit about what we did there, how it was I went about going to Africa, and also speaking just a little bit about polio. And I know y'all probably already know a lot about polio, but I find that people in Rotary, particularly those that are new, don't really know the history of how Rotary got involved in the polio eradication campaign and really what a true marvel it is. So I'll be speaking about that some as well. I keep my cheat sheet in case my screen is behind me, so I'll be referring to my cheat sheet just a little bit. I also want to thank y'all not only for hosting me, but my extended family that lives here in Batesville. I don't get to see them very much. And I have two prospective Rotarians here, the small ones. I wanted them to know a little bit more about Rotary, and hopefully in the future they can fulfill a role, not maybe even in Batesville, but somewhere around the world. So, next slide is, well, go back one more time, I'm sorry. This first slide is taken in a van, and these are the people that I went with to Africa. And you might say, well, why Africa? And that's the same thing that my husband said, and I'll tell you about that in just a minute. But you'll see that that's about a third of the people, because we went in various groups to do our projects. The girl in the middle is the African host. She's Nigerian, and then I'm over on the side. But I just wanted to show you that the varied group, a lot of the people from California, it's obviously closer, but they were from all over the United States. And also, interestingly, you don't have to be a Rotarian to go on these project fairs. So next slide. So how did I get involved in this? Well, one day I was sitting at my computer, like most of you do, and up comes this flyer about what was called a project fair. Well, I'd never seen anything about a project fair before, didn't know anything about it, and it was about a trip to Africa. So I looked at it, considered it. It was $1,600. It was for 9 days. The thing that caught my eye, however, was that it was under the auspices of Howard Tours. And if y'all have read in the Rotary magazine very much, you might see their logo. They sponsor various travel opportunities. So I felt a little bit better about being able to go with a tour group as opposed to just striking out on my own. Interestingly enough, my club, because I am the former president of the Rotary Club of Jonesboro, and I could have gone to Brazil, but I was hesitant to go to Brazil. I didn't feel confident enough to go to Brazil, but then I struck out to Africa. So the other question there on my screen is, so why would you do that? And that's what my husband said when I went home and said, hey, I think I might go to Africa. Well, why would you do that? And I said, well, you know, the club's going to help me pay for it, and what other time am I going to get the opportunity to go to Africa? So that was all well and good. He turned back to the TV. So it was about 2 weeks later, we were at some social event, and I was talking to one person, he was talking to somebody else, and I heard him say my name, and then I heard him say, and Beverly's going to Nicaragua. So, you know, guys, if your wife's telling you she's going to travel abroad, you might want to know which continent. So, next slide, please. So what is a project fair? It's just a place where you share information about projects. And let's just say that if we were having that here in Batesville, we might have people from all over Arkansas, all over Oklahoma, even Tennessee, etc. There would be a host of people that came in and talked about what projects they needed funding for. So that's basically what it was about. Next slide. This, if you'll see the map here, it's West Africa, obviously, and it was this 15-country area in West Africa where all these people were coming from. And this area of Africa has had a number of influential people in Rotary. They have had one RI president, and I don't know if you remember this past summer where Sam Awori, it was announced that he passed away in the Rotary magazine. He was our president-elect. I actually saw him speak in Atlanta, but unfortunately he passed away. So they would have had a second RI president. They also had 3 trustees. So this project has been going on for about 11 years. Well, when I went, it was 11 years. Now in its 12th year, it was part of the Reach Out to Africa campaign to be able to join people throughout the world, to people in Africa, to help them with various projects. And I'll talk a little bit more later about their needs. By the way, when I went, it was in Nigeria. In the first year, it was in Ghana, and this past October, it was in Ghana again. So you see the map here, and I have my assistant that's going to point to Abuja in the center there, is the capital of Nigeria. And the place that I went is Port Harcourt, excellent assistant, and down at the Gulf of Guinea, and it obviously is a port. And it was a very, very large city, a city of 2 million people. And I'll show you some of the scenes from the roadsides, but they are divided much like our states are in that the country is divided into states. So that was the river state. Well, back to why would you do that? We all know that Boko Haram is active in Nigeria, so that was a concern. But they are in the very northern aspect of Nigeria versus where I was in the southern part. And I never really felt threatened. If you'll advance again. One more time. One more time. Okay. We were under armed guard the whole time we were there. The biggest threat is by kidnapping. Kidnapping for ransom. So anywhere we went, we were under continuous guard. When we got on the bus, you saw the picture on the bus sitting in there. On the front of that bus was the guy with the Uzi. Behind us was a truck with automatic weapons, and in front of us was another truck with automatic weapons. And this is an example of the kind of vehicle they were using. The other thing here is the cell tower, and when we went to our walk for polio, that was just a shot that I took, and there's actually a man up in there with an automatic rifle. Okay, back up a couple. So just a few things about Nigeria in general. It's our thoughts about being poor. You can't imagine the poverty that they have. It's bad. But they have had some semblance of a democracy in the past years. They became an independent country in 1960, but just until 1915, with that election, was it considered to be more of a fair election. And when I was there in 16, they were very, very positive about their new president and that they could make some real achievements in terms of their conditions. However, this Buhari is his name, unfortunately was ill much of his term and has been out of the country for 2 years and has just returned. So I'm not sure exactly how much progress he's been able to make while out of the country. So the sad thing about Nigeria is it's very rich in natural resources, but the country does not really get the benefit of those natural resources. It has oil reserves, but the oil reserves were sold off to what I will just define as big oil. And the companies and the people in the government businesses reap the benefits, but that doesn't really flow down to the populace. The thing that's very, very concerning about that is this is a very populous country. It is, their schools have no toilets, no other facilities. Not remarkably, the females do not go to school for any length of time. So it's a very difficult situation. One of the things that we did that I thought was so incredible is they don't have a lot of vocational training there or the capacity for that. So one of the local clubs was sponsoring vocational training. And it's not like, you know, you go to UACCB and you get training like they do here. They have a school that moves around. Remember, it's a city of 2 million. So they take their school and they move it to portions of the city so they can capture various groups of teenagers. The part about that was heartbreaking. So the buildings there are very poorly, no, I wouldn't say poorly constructed. They're not finished. It was my understanding, and I don't know this for a fact, but what was told to me is that if the building's not finished, you don't have to pay taxes on it. So none of the buildings were completely finished. So the school that we went to visit, the school was on the 2nd floor, but when you went up the stairs, it was crumbling concrete and there was no railing. So imagine, 15 people trying to walk up this stairs and you get up there. Well, all these kids were there and they were just delightful. Some of the girls had their babies on their back. They had bread making, sewing, hat making, other things that they could go to the market and sell. But one of the girls had a child behind her that had the toy that he had was a stick, and he was stirring the dirt because that's all that was on the floor, even though it was on the 2nd floor. So I look outside, and it's just kind of like this, where there would be doors here, because everything's open there. So it's on the second level, and there's big doors that open out to a portico. And so there's this baby starting in the stick, but you go out, and within 15 feet, there's like nothing. There's no railing on that portico or anything. So I say this because all of the safety features that we take for granted, all the infrastructure that we take for granted, they have none of that. But yet, they're the suffering and the smiling. So, guys, I think I can finish up here.
We think that our laptops have major malfunction.
Oh, well, then I will finish up.
We're going to try to fix it. I'm sorry about this.
That's okay.
I didn't think I pressed the wrong button. It's just died.
Oh, it just died?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
I'm so sorry.
Well, so I always like to finish what I speak about with a takeaway. And number one is about polio. I know that you all do your own thing. Every club does their own thing for polio eradication. But we really cannot underestimate or underscore the importance of eradication of polio. And the important thing about that is that was something that was started by really one person, where they thought, okay, we've got to have a way that we're going to celebrate our 100th year anniversary. And this was in the 80s. We want to be able to celebrate what could the world really recognize us for. So it was that far ahead in terms of the strategic planning that they decided that they were going to eradicate polio. And they did it by deciding we're going to take it one country at a time. And I don't know if you know, but it started in the Philippines in the 80s. And basically the health director said, if you can get me enough vaccine, we can eradicate polio from the Philippines. And so they took it to the Philippines, eradicated it there, and we've been working ever since to eradicate polio, and we are this close. So the story about Nigeria, just to digress a little bit, is that they were polio free. And from 15 to 16, they were polio free and actually declared polio free because they had gone 1 year without polio. However, just prior to my going there in August of 16, they had 4 cases in the refugee camps that were attributed to Boko Haram. So therefore they went back on the list of an endemic country. So we still now have the 3 countries, which is Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Nigeria. But the thing about Nigeria, remember I was there right after this happened. And so within a week, they had people on the ground in those refugee camps. They were working with the army. When the army would push Boko Haram back, they would go in, risking their own lives to immunize these children. And the way that was done was the concentric circles. Y'all probably heard that. You go in and you do ever widening circles, and that's how they continue to work to eradicate it. So it will be eradicated, hopefully in our lifetime. We're very, very close, so keep up the good work. The other thing I'd like to leave you with is all the things that we take for granted. Sitting here having a nice meal, we don't have to worry about the water that we drink. We didn't drink the water. When we went to the Rotary clubs, we drank wine and beer. And I think the reason was you couldn't drink the water, so why not wine and beer? And all the clubs sang too, which was really kind of interesting. So just be thankful that you live in a country that is so far above, so much more sophisticated than so much of the world. And the things, the poverty that we see does not even raise to the level of anything that I saw in Nigeria. So we have so much to be thankful for. The other thing to be thankful for is that you're a Rotarian and that you can affect the health care of so many people throughout the world. And not just health care, obviously, with polio, but so many other things. So I congratulate you on that. And I appreciate being asked to come and speak. I hope you've learned a little bit of something, and it was a pleasure speaking to you. If you have questions, I'll take those.
Any questions for Beverly?
I do have a couple of, I'm going to send these around. This is about project fairs throughout the world. I forgot to really talk about that. But if you're interested, they're in not only West Africa, but Italy and other places. So if you're interested, just take one and hopefully someone will make it out your way.
Beverly, I went to a mission trip one time, and well, a couple times in Mexico, and I always said when I came back that I thought I was going to find an EPA person and kiss them because of the environment being so different here than it was in Mexico. Thank you for that presentation. As we're thinking about the foundation and its effect on eradication of polio, I'd just like to make a little mention of the Paul Harris Fellow. Paul Harris Fellow was a recognition that was created in 1957 by Rotary International, and it is a recognition of a person who then has contributed at least $1,000 to the Rotary Foundation. And it started in 57. And by 2006, there was over 1 million Paul Harris Fellows. And I'd like to recognize tonight the Paul Harris Fellows that are in the room. And would y'all please stand, please? Let's give them a hand. One of the things that has happened over the last few years is that a number of people in the club have been working to try to develop a Rotaract club here in the community. And Kurt, who's been intimately involved with it in the last few weeks, is not here tonight, but I want to ask Matt Martin to stand up and tell us a little bit about Rotaract, and it looks as though we may have an opportunity to create one here in the community.
All right, thank you, Dennis. I don't know much about what Kurt's actually accomplished, but I can tell you a little bit about a Rotaract club. Rotaract is basically the club that would be made for college students and anybody under the age of 30. Most college towns, especially with Rotary clubs, they aspire to have Rotaract clubs. For whatever reason, Line, UACCB, we've tried, we've never been able to kind of get our foot in the door. And I think a lot of that reasoning behind not being able to kind of break into those campuses is because it takes somebody with a passion for Rotary to sponsor the club, be a mentor to the club, and be a part of the club week in and week out. And we've been very fortunate that Kurt has kind of led that charge. And we're very close. I think we're extremely close to having a Rotaract club on Lyon College. So that's something that as a club we should be proud of.
Thank you, Matt, and we'll try to keep you abreast of that, and hopefully that will come to fruition. And of course, again, Rotaract being a club that helps develop leadership skills among young people and an awareness of the way in which they can serve the community. I think I overlooked recognizing Madeline and Nate Powell. Madeline is Barrett's assistant, I understand, and we appreciate y'all coming out tonight, and Barrett had invited them. Aaron, could I get you to help me out a little bit?
Yes, sir.
Come up here. We have some door prizes, and see that jar right there? It's got some tickets in it. Would you draw one of those ticket numbers, and this is for a gift certificate to the Bell Theater. Number 480. Looky there. Madam, congratulations. Okay, Larry. I need another one, and this one is for the beautiful centerpiece or decoration that you might put someplace in your house. Would you draw that, please? 4896. All right, would you take that back to the carrier? And then while you're back there, draw the next ticket, which is a gift certificate to 109.
4874. 4874.
Right, congratulations.
Hey, Brandon's friend of the family.
Do we have any announcements for the sake of Rotary? Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to say something out there, microphone. I joined Rotary in 2003. I joined its network of bankers and fellow Rotarians. In 2003, I believe there was 8 countries who still yet to be immunized when polio was eradicated. So that was almost 15 years ago. I started in actually February of 2003. So over 15 years, we've eliminated polio in 5 countries. That's pretty significant. We've actually eliminated it in 6 countries, with 1 country, as you said, come back with 4 cases last year. So, I mean, when they say we're this close as an advertising campaign, it's more than a campaign. I think you're going to see Rotary not only end it in our lifetime, I think you're going to see it end it probably in the next 10 years. So, anyway, kudos to Rotary. It's a major accomplishment. It's something that, was a mountain, I think, when we started it. So.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder, Matt. And I want to applaud Barry for his leadership this year in celebration of National Polio Day and the help of the employees at White River and getting that facility and sponsoring the event that we did, which I think was one of the few that occurred in the state of Arkansas on National Polio Day. Well, we got a lot of work to do, and again, I hope for those of you that are guests and visitors, you've been able to see the impact that Rotary can have on a international basis, and not just what we do here locally within the community. We are always interested in new members, and we hope that you'll spread the word for us about the benefits of Rotary and its impact on the community. And we've got to make sure that none of the dessert is left. And so before you go out the door, let's make sure that we take care of that dessert. Are there any other announcements that need to be made for the sake of Rotary? I would just like to say thank you for attending tonight. I hope that this is a wonderful holiday season for you, that you're safe and surrounded by the people that love you. And as we always end our Rotary meetings, us end it with a 4-way test. First, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? You're adjourned after the dessert stop.
Hey, we need to take a photo. Big on.
died. How do we think I pressed the power button?
It was dead. I pulled it out. I pulled the battery out.
Really?
So the flame circuit in there, no charge battery. Keep it good. So I actually pulled the power to pull the battery. That means there's no way it's getting power to anything.
I'm so sorry that happened. Basically, I pressed the escape button and it just froze up on me and died.
That was
I
a serious
didn't mean for that to happen. I'm really sorry that that went down. Okay, so that's what it was. Because usually
I had to go back to the hardware reset.
if the battery's dead, what I usually do is plug it up and
Well, I think that was the problem. The battery was dead. Whatever it was that turned it out. Because it was still powered up. Nothing you did, until you removed the battery, nothing you did was gonna.
How you doing? You did a good job up there. Don't know about that. We had laptop problems. It just died on me. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good to have y'all here. Remember, Mondays at 8 o'clock. All right, I'll tell you that. Good talk. Glad to see you. Good to see you.
Bob really
I'll